We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark.
Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. I'm Sarah Hart, and I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 50 or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most rewarding, and productive lives now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved and we need to get going now. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Michelle Walters, a woman whose work I greatly admire. An imagination advocate, Michelle Walters writes and speaks on themes associated with the power of mind, positivity, and leadership. Michelle is a clinical hypnotherapist, leadership coach, and author. Michelle helps her clients by sharing her expert knowledge of human nature, identifying and elevating client strengths, and facilitating personal and professional transformations. Welcome, Michelle. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm delighted to be here on Prime Spark.
So before we get started, let me just ask you, do you experience getting older? And if so, what is that experience? And if you don't, why do you think it is that you don't?
I do experience getting older. I think that one of the major reasons that I experience getting older is I watch people around me getting older. So I have a son, he's 20 now, and I've been watching him grow up. And I certainly do feel a little older as I watch my son celebrating age 20, heading into age 21. Just the whole notion that I've been there this whole time means I must be older. I don't know that I feel so much older. I guess I feel a little bit older in my body and in my life, but I really do think that a lot of my feeling older comes from looking at people around me, particularly young people.
So you feel you're getting older when you look at people who are younger.
Well, and as I watch people who are younger growing older, like my son.
Yeah, I think we've all had the experience. I just recently had this experience. A friend of mine has a daughter, and I saw her in her second day on this earth. She was a tiny little, big-eyed. I mean, she was there. I mean, she was right there. In a couple of weeks, she's graduating from high school. How did that happen?
Yeah. Where did the time go? How did that tiny person now become a graduate? It's an amazing thing to watch. And I tell you, there are days that took forever and days that passed in the flash of an eyelash. But I would say, yeah, that's been one of my primary experiences getting older. Fortunately, I'm very lucky. I have good health. I have most of my family, that sort of thing hasn't really hit me that much. But it is my son.
It's interesting, because we watch people go from being babies to graduating from high school. We watch that all the time, and we see ourselves and so forth. And all of that's fine because that's what we do. We are born and we get older. And it's not until we get older that we seem to be upset that we're getting older, even though we've watched this our whole lives. It's not a surprise. It's not like, I think that's fascinating that for some reason we don't take it just as the natural lifespan. I mean, we born and we get older. I think that's fascinating.
I think it is fascinating. And I think it's I think it's also fascinating because, I look at my son and his cousins, and they're all young enough to want to be older,
Yeah.
right? My son will be able to drink on his next birthday. I have, nephews who are looking forward to driving. These kinds of things, when you're young, you want to be older. And then when you're older, you want to be younger. It's a little bit, maybe it's always just a little bit, grass is always greener. I don't know.
I don't know. Do you want to be younger?
Think I want to be younger. No, I would like to keep the health that I have now for eternity. But I don't think I really want to be younger.
I don't think I do either. I mean, I think about, I have had a really good life. Do I want to go back to being 40? No. Do I want to go back to being 50? No. I mean, no, I don't want to be younger, but you're right. I do too. I want to keep my health until I leave the earth. I think we all do.
I think we all do. I think that, I don't know, you know much more about this than me, but maybe some of this fear of aging is not as much a fear of adding more years to the chronological clock as it is of losing health or vitality or brain cells or something like that.
I think that's right. I think that no, I mean, some people do, but I think most of us don't really care if we go from 60 to 61. I think what we care is that we stay healthy and keep our minds. And yeah, I agree. So, Michelle, let's talk about your work, which I am fascinated by. So, before we get started, would you define for me and everybody else, how do you define hypnosis?
I define hypnosis as a state of mind and brain where certain parts of your brain are so relaxed that you are able to see things a different way, remember things, and ultimately you can shift your maybe clouded or ineffective ways of thinking into a better frame of mind. Hypnosis is something that the brain state we all go through at least twice a day. Every time you fall asleep and you wake up, your brain passes through the brainwave state that is the same as hypnosis. So it's completely natural. It's, fun to make goofy movies about it, but it's really not hot. When I can help my clients to intentionally bring on this state of mind, we are able to find out so many things, find out reasons why they've had a problem, find out ways to get over a problem, find out ways to shift the way they're thinking about something, and so that they can really find a way to let it go or move past it. And it's such a lovely process. It is different from psychotherapy in that typically my client is just relaxed and kind of on the brink of sleep. We work at that level, usually for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, depending on the issue. There are some issues that extend beyond that. But for the most part, most of my clients I see very short term, and we make very speedy results. And I just love having this gift to be able to bring to people.
I love that. So last night I noticed, I mean, I don't typically, if I dream a lot, I don't remember it. But last night I woke up about every 2 hours and very aware I had been dreaming. So is that coming out of a hypnotic state? Is it moving through one?
So when your brain is completely asleep, you're going to have different brain waves altogether. So it's not the same thing as a hypnosis brainwave state, but it is also a tapping into your subconscious mind. Both of them are ways of getting into the subconscious mind. And there are other ways to get into the subconscious mind. I mean, you could take mushrooms, you could do all kinds of other things, right? Dreams are a powerful way of evidencing what are some of the thoughts going through your subconscious mind. And sometimes dreams are kind of meaningless or not that important. And sometimes dreams are really a way for us to hear the subconscious mind that we might otherwise be ignoring. So I don't see too many clients for dreams, but I love seeing clients for dreams. I had a client who came to see me about a dream. This was an older gentleman, and he'd been having this dream. He'd had it a lot. And sometimes it had been in a hotel, and sometimes it was a conference center, and sometimes the places changed, but the essence of the dream remained the same. And he was fully convinced that this dream must mean something. And even though it seemed like it had to do with his work, he didn't think it had anything to do with his work because it had started a couple of years before he retired and then continued after he retired. Well, in hypnosis, we discovered the dream absolutely did have to do with his work. It was telling him that he was going to miss the social aspects of work when he retired. And his subconscious had been aware of this upcoming change a couple of years before he even retired. As a result of our work together, he had a new interpretation of his dream that he could then decide, what did he want to do about? Did he want to get a little job? Did he want to do more things socially? It was really interesting.
Had he been aware of feeling a bit lonely or without enough social contact?
Yeah, he'd been aware of it, but he did not think it was that big a deal. But apparently his subconscious thought it was a pretty big deal that it kept bringing this dream to him over and over again.
Interesting. That's really so. How did you first get interested in all this?
That's a crazy story. So before I did this, I worked in digital marketing. Yeah, that's what I did. And people say, what in the world does digital marketing and hypnosis have to do with each other? Well, they're totally related. They're both very creative and they are both very persuasive pursuits. In digital marketing, my clients were agencies, and the people receiving the messages were people who maybe hadn't chosen to receive them. They were just seeing an advertisement. Now my clients are people who have asked for help with a particular thing. So I think of them as being a little bit different. I actually got into this line of work because, of all things, I read a novel about a hypnotherapist. And it was a great novel. And I thought, this woman has the coolest job. I want to do that. And so I trained on the side. And then during the pandemic, when I lost one of my digital marketing jobs, I was like, if I'm ever going to do this, this is the time. And so I hung up my shingle, and this is what I do now.
Can you do your work virtually? You must be able to if you started it during the pandemic.
Yes. I can do my work virtually. Right now, my practice is maybe half and half of clients that I see virtually and clients that I see in person in my office. The in-person work is lovely. It's just nice to be around people, especially after the pandemic. But it's amazing to me. I've worked with quite a few clients remote, and we've had enormous success.
I've heard people talk about self-hypnosis. Is there such a thing? And if there is, what's the difference between self-hypnosis and working with a professional like you?
So self-hypnosis is when you are alone and you are working on your particular issue in a state of hypnosis. So often self-hypnosis, you might be listening to a recording, listening to a hypnosis recording by yourself. And it is very effective for solving all kinds of problems. And I use it with a lot of my clients between their sessions in order to support the changes that we are working on. You can do a lot of things with self-hypnosis. It will fix a lot of problems, but there are some problems that are much harder to fix, that you really need somebody else to be sort of the questioner, the guide, the person to help you through it. And those are the people who I work with on a professional basis.
Are there any dangers of doing self-hypnosis?
I would say there's really kind of no danger in doing hypnosis at all. The thing about hypnosis is that your subconscious is there to protect you. And so it will only believe the things that are within the range of things that you could believe. So a hypnotherapist really can't get you to do something that is beyond what you can conceive of doing or changing. In self-hypnosis, there's The only thing that you might be wary about is just making sure that you like the suggestions that you're hearing on a recording or that with the therapist that you're working with. So it's helpful to have a bond or to, have kind of know this is a good resource for you. But no hypnotherapist can really convince you of anything that is outside of your belief system. So it should be okay.
So there are all of these crazy stories about people on stage being hypnotized and acting like a chicken.
And they're not untrue. So when people are hypnotized on stage, it is the very same brain state. All of the people who are up on the stage, tapping their heads or rubbing their bellies or acting like chickens, all have some degree of personal agency and some level of conscious recognition that they're behaving in this way. They could choose to just walk off the stage and not be a part of it anymore. So we think of that sort of, that's not hypnotherapy, that's just pure hypnosis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's for show.
Right, it's for show, but it's real and it's true. And in any crowd big enough, statistically, you will find people who are that hypnotizable, who are ready to go to that step and stand on the stage.
If somebody hypnotizes me on stage and I act like a chicken, part of me is willing to be on stage and act like a chicken. If they told me to take off all my clothes, I wouldn't do that unless I wanted to.
Yes.
Interesting. Do you find people skeptical about hypnosis and hypnotherapy?
Sometimes. I was in a networking group a year or two ago with a lovely realtor, a younger woman. And I mean, she was happy to welcome me to the group, but I don't think she really thought I could do anything. And then she came to my office and I gave her a session, and she sat up from the session at the end with her eyes wide open. And she's like, "Oh my God, that was amazing. Now I get it." People should realize that almost everyone is hypnotizable, but not quite everyone. And people can be hypnotizable to different degrees. So I have some clients who within a minute or two, they're just out and they're very hypnotized, and that's their natural state. And then I have other clients who can get into hypnosis, but it's a much lighter state. And so I need to have techniques to work with that sort of client as well.
Are attitudes changing any toward hypnotherapy and hypnosis?
I think so. I don't have any real evidence on it, but I think attitudes are changing in part because we've recognized that there's some level of scientific basis for it. But this has been going on for years. People have been using hypnosis, but it wasn't until maybe 5 or 10 years ago when we put people on an MRI scanner and recognized that there were changes to the brain that were happening that made sense in terms of how people were acting in a state of hypnosis. And a lot of people are looking for solutions that aren't harmful, that don't include taking a pill for something. Hypnosis is amazing at being able to alleviate anxiety and depression and all kinds of negative thought patterns in our head by releasing those patterns and making people feel a whole lot better. And like I said, it's pretty quick. And the only thing that has been shown is that it is possible in hypnosis to tell somebody they have a memory of something that didn't happen. And that's rare, and we're taught how to avoid those situations. But because you're in this very relaxed state, your brain is more open to thinking about things. And so you could be persuaded to think that something had happened when there was, in fact, no instance of that.
I used to do a process called guided imagery and music, and it was wonderful. I loved it. I loved being the guide. I loved being the traveler. I mean, I don't know that it was hypnosis, but people and myself, when I was a traveler, we get into a very altered state of consciousness and work through amazing things. Anyway, that's the only experience I have really with hypnosis, but I did a lot of that at one time.
It's probably extremely similar in terms of waking up certain parts of the brain and dialing down certain parts of the brain. And when you're in that state, all kinds of things can happen. Like I said, you can remember things from your past that you don't remember. People ask me all the time, do I do past life regressions? Well, I don't try to do past life regressions, but sometimes my clients have a past life regression. It opens up your mind to what I think of as kind of the superconscious or the one mind that, we don't have a whole lot of evidence for, but we all kind of, not we all, but many of us think that there's some reason to believe that there is a one mind. There is another way of knowing that is outside of our corporeal body. And hypnosis is one method for accessing that knowing.
Can hypnotherapy do anything for physical symptoms?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It can do things for physical symptoms. I've had a number of clients that I've worked with on physical symptoms, and I'm pretty good at them. I had a woman recently who had a bad tic in her face. She would make this sort of grimace without realizing she was doing it. And we've almost eliminated that grimace. Another client would pull her hair out strand by strand when she was nervous to the point of being bald behind one of her ears. She'd done this her whole life. Or she'd done this from like age 13 to her early 60s when she came to see me. She was retiring and she wanted to try and make some changes and let this go. I was able to get her to stop. So there are a number of, those are two kind of easy to understand ones, but there's a lot of ways. Hypnosis can also be used for managing pain. And I don't use it a lot for pain. There are other hypnotherapists who do a lot of that work. It's very in demand because it is the brain that senses pain. And so if you can prevent the brain from overreacting to pain, you can often decrease symptoms of pain in a client. Actually, I can think of another client. She's a client that came to see me because of extreme morning sickness. She's pregnant and her morning sickness is wrapped up in anxiety and so bad she can't get out of the house. And the hypnosis work has helped her to be able to get out of the house more. And she, like I said, she's a current client. We're in the process of working through that. So it can really help with physical symptoms.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of this for years, Michelle, but when I was in the 5th grade, I had for a long time had a facial tic that was a grimace. And I didn't know I was doing it. And my mother got really concerned about it and pointed it out to me and really wanted me to stop because it was ugly. And she promised me I could have this white, I thought of it as leather. It wasn't leather, but this white leather notebook to take, for my schoolwork if I would stop doing it. And I stopped doing it overnight.
For you, Sarah.
She was sort of, wait a minute, it was that easy for you?
If it was that easy, why did I buy such a big present?
Nope, it took a white leather notebook, Mother.
White leather notebook. Well, the things that motivate 5th graders, right?
I have heard you mention that you did some work with a woman in her 60s. Could you tell us that story?
I've had a number of clients that are women in their 60s. I think that not always, but many times women in their 60s are kind of on the process of changing a lot of things, maybe retiring, maybe downshifting in terms of their work, that kind of a thing. And one of my clients in her upper 60s was a real estate agent with very, very intransigent anxiety. It just wouldn't stop. And we worked together for weeks on where this anxiety was coming from because it was really impacting the quality of her life. She liked to go to the gym. She liked to go out with her friends. She liked to do her job. And it was just so much in her way. Well, after a number of appointments, we got her to the place of being able to get rid of that anxiety and have it lift and elevate. And I'm very glad to report she is back working the way she wants to.
Oh, that's excellent. Many of the women that I work with in one way or another are at the and I think women in their 60s, I think it's 50s and 60s, really start making a lot of changes for all sorts of reasons. But I personally think that it's natural that if women will pay attention to themselves, they will feel an urge to do something else, to do something more, to make things more meaningful. I mean, in all different sorts of things, but I think it's a natural evolution, a natural maturation. So have you worked with anybody who's wanted to make a career change? Because I come across women who want to make a career change or stop working full time, but not drop out or not stop working. So have you done any of that work?
I have. I wrote a book about getting a job. So I've gotten a few clients for this particular topic. One of my clients was a gal that I worked with in marketing. So I'd known her from that world. And she was tired of marketing, I guess a little bit like me, wanted something new to do. And we used hypnosis to help her to make the decision and then to become a real estate agent. And she is now happily practicing realtor in your neck of the woods. She's over on the San Francisco Peninsula.
Oh, I
So,
love it.
yeah, I have also worked with a few people and done some work. What I've seen with a couple of my clients, though, and the two people I'm thinking of right now are both women in their 60s, was a recognition that the work world with a traditional go out, get a job kind of job was not friendly to their attempts to get one. And both of these two women were so dedicated to want to go get a job somewhere doing something and just not finding any warm reception at all. I don't think it was from their qualifications or their experience or their availability or their attitude. It really felt to me as I worked with them like this was about the outside world and the outside world not being friendly or welcoming to their skill set. And both women understood that, they didn't have to do things the conventional way. They could start their own business. They could do this and that. But these two particular clients wanted a job. They didn't want to start their own business. They just wanted a job. And we were unable to find that for them within the short period of time we worked together. And so I do see this aging problem, this problem we have with recognizing the value and importance of older people and especially older women.
Yes, unfortunately, it starts really early for women to start feeling that in the workplace. I mean, women as young as 40s can start feeling it's at that point it's sort of subtle. By the time you get to your 50s and 60s, it's not so subtle. But initially it's sort of subtle. It's just not quite so welcome, not quite so offered new projects and new challenges. It's devastating to women, and it's such a waste of talent for organizations.
Yeah.
Who are desperately wanting employees. And here is this group of potential, really dedicated, highly skilled employees who can be so loyal, who simply are overlooked. It's very sad. I find it very sad.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's just wrong.
Oh, it's absolutely
It's just wrong, and organizations need to really find a way to look at their hiring practices and the other thing that I guess I've seen happen in the last 20 years is just we hire so much digitally now that a lot of HR has kind of lost its humanity. I had a visit with a friend the other day, and she's a recruiter, but she's a recruiter who lost her job. And so now she's on the opposite side of the fence. She is a woman in her 50s, and she's like, this is just brutal. Mhm. Yeah, it's pretty hard.
So what's your book, Michelle? I didn't know you had a book. Tell us about
Yes. So I have a book. It's called An Alignment of Spirit: Finding Work You Love. And I just had this like feeling a couple years ago, like I had a book in me, I just had to write it. And it's a basically it's a law of attraction book on how to think positively, what is the supporting science on how to manifest what you want to manifest. And I wrote it with more examples that come from finding a job than anything else, because having worked in digital marketing on agencies and for creative agencies, I was always looking for a new job. Always. I would have a job, it would last a year, then the client would get promoted, or the client would quit, or a different agency would win the bid, or something would happen. And so my jobs just changed over and over again. So I got pretty good at manifesting new jobs. And when I wanted to write a book on manifesting, I was like, well, nobody seems to write one for getting a job. And yet that seems like a really effective and important thing to do. So that's what my book is about. It will teach you how to manifest anything, but it is centered around my stories for manifesting new jobs.
I love it. I love it. Good for you. So we're almost out of time, Michelle. Just tell me what's next.
What's next is leadership coaching. I have trained this year to be a leadership coach because my core skill really is that I have this great understanding of human nature. I help people find their strength, and then I put it in place so that they can transform. That's like who I am, and I can't really stop myself from doing that. That's just kind of how I am with everything. And this year I have added training with an organization called John Maxwell. He's a big leadership guy, to my bag of tricks. And I am starting to bring this content both to individuals as well as organizations in order to upskill them in terms of recognizing how to value their workforce, how to elevate skills in their workforce, how to be better leaders. And so that's the exciting new branch of my business that I'm going into in 2024.
Good for you. Well, good luck. I'm sure that will be successful. Just keep positively manifesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I could imagine people are going to want to get in touch with you. If they want to, how can they do that?
The best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is michellewalters.net. And on the homepage, there's a big button that says book a consult. And if you click that, you will be able to book a 30-minute meeting, and we can chat through your questions on hypnosis or leadership coaching or whatever we need to discuss.
Great. Thank you. So that is our time today. Please join us again. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at primesparkwomen.com. Thank you so much to my guest, Michelle Walters. And don't forget, you can find her at michellewalters.net. Thank you all for being with us. Take care, spread tolerance and love. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, you can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.